Hello and welcome to the Adapter Factor HD. In this installment, I'm taking another look at something I've already covered in a previous video, and that is the Mayflash Universal Adapter for PS3, Xbox 360, and PC USB. This thing, if you haven't seen my other video, my original video, allows you to use an Xbox 360 controller on a PlayStation 3 or a PlayStation 3 controller on an Xbox 360 or a PS2 controller on either. Now, the way this works is the adapter itself has on its side a USB cord. This goes into the system of your choice, either the Xbox 360 or the PS3. On the front of it, it has a PS2 port. The PS2 port, pretty much everything has a PS2 port, so this will work with original PlayStation controllers or PlayStation 2 controllers if you want. On this side is your output USB. This is important. Now I'm going to show you how this works. Up on the top you have basically LEDs to show you which controller is plugged in. You have a turbo button which allows you to have rapid fire on any single button that you want. It has a home button. This is useful for the PlayStation 2 controller if you plug that in, because the PlayStation 2 does not have the Xbox guide or home button. And it has a clear button, which is used to clear the turbo. On the back of it are a series of dip switches, but I'll get into those in a few minutes. So I'm going to be talking about how to actually use this device. Now, you need a few things which you're actually going to use this adapter. First thing you need is, if you're going to be using an Xbox 360 and you want to be using a PlayStation 3 controller, the first thing you need is a wired Xbox 360 controller. You have to have a wired Xbox 360 controller. You cannot use a wireless one, even with a play-and charge kit. That's very important. Next thing you need is obviously your PlayStation 3 controller. And then you need a USB normal to mini, not micro, because that's the PlayStation 3's standard USB cable. You need to have this plugged into the PlayStation 3 controller to make it usable on the Xbox 360, because the Xbox 360 does not have built-in Bluetooth, which we need for the PlayStation 3 controller. So all that said, let's turn the 360 on and demonstrate how this works. So I'm going to boot up my boot up my 360 here. Next step is to take the adapter, take its USB port, and plug that into any USB port on your 360. At this point, it does absolutely nothing, and that's what you were expecting. So we're going to need this to activate, and the way it activates is through a wired Xbox 360 controller. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take the adapter and we're going to plug it into the output jack. Plug that in. Then this will light up. You can see, properly lit up. And the adapter itself is showing that there is a red LED right there. If I unplug the adapter, or unplug the controller, because at this point we don't need this anymore, we want to be using a PS3 controller on the Xbox 360. At this point, it starts blinking. If I unplug it, it will stop blinking, and then I'll need to repeat the process over again. So leaving it still plugged in, at this point, I should take my PS3 controller, plug in the USB USB mini to standard USB, like that, and then take the other end of the cord here and plug it in, like that. Once all of these conditions are satisfied, it starts being solid again, the color on the LED. And now I can use the PS3 controller on the Xbox 360. So it's just a quick glance at that. You guys get the point. All right, enough of that. Next, let's get into an FAQ, because in my previous video that I did, there were a lot of questions that people had about this thing. So the first question, does the adapter introduce latency, in other words lag? It does not. There is no lag whatsoever if you're using any controller. If you want to use a PS2 or PS3 controller on Xbox 360, do I absolutely need to use a wired 360 controller? Yes, you absolutely need to use a wired 360 controller. The wireless ones will not work even with the Play and Charge kit. This is very, very important. Let's see. Can I use headsets with this adapter? I don't really know because I don't really play games online, so I don't think so, but I could be wrong. Can I use third-party controllers? This really depends on which controller you're planning on using. Most third-party controllers for PS3 are actually simply PC USB controllers that happen to work with the 360 or with the PS3, as PS3 is not picky about USB controllers at all. As a direct result, the vast majority of PS3 controllers, arcade sticks, or accessories will not work with the Xbox 360, even with this adapter. However, the other way around is not true. Just about any PS3 or just about any Xbox 360 controller will work with the PS3 with this adapter. So if you have a PS3 arcade stick, chances are you will not be able to use it on the 360, but if you have a 360 arcade stick, you probably can use it on the PS3. What are the controller mappings? Now, this is a big sticking point for a lot of people. The controller mappings are 1-to-1. That means that the analog sticks of the PS3 controller and 360 controllers are identical. The D-pads are the same, the face buttons are the same, and the triggers are the same. That means that the back two triggers are the back two buttons, back two triggers on the PS3 controller. You have L1, R1, L2, R2, and you over here would have L1, R1, L2, R2. This means that, for 360 games typically use the back two triggers, and most PS3 games use the front two. You'll need to change the mappings in-game if you don't like the setup. Now, most games allow you to change the settings, so it's not a big deal, but, it is a sticking point for certain people, so I should definitely mention that. Sometimes the game takes actions even when I don't press a button, and I'm sure I didn't press a button. So what's going on? Due to the nature of the interception of signals here, the adapter on occasion can introduce so-called phantom button presses. I've owned my adapter for over a year now, and I've only rarely encountered this, but I've heard from other people that they've had it happen more often. If you have this happening more often than, every once in a while, chances are it probably has to do with your setup or your controller revisions. Not all the controllers are the same. They have little motherboard revisions that are made periodically. So if you have a new controller or something that isn't working properly, try using a different controller. Borrow one from a friend, or go and buy one from a store. Try different things. Now, does the adapter work with a slim Xbox 360, fat PS3, super slim PS3, etc.? The fact is that this adapter will work with any system. It doesn't matter revision, doesn't matter what region it is around the world. It will work with any Xbox 360, it will work with any PS3. Do I have to have a wired PS3 controller, or wired Xbox 360 controller if I want to use a PS2 controller on the Xbox 360? Now, I'll read that question again. Do I need to have a wired Xbox 360 controller if I want to use a PS2 controller on the Xbox 360? The answer is yes. Without the wired Xbox 360 controller, the adapter will do nothing. If you plug in a PS2 controller without the wired PS3 controller, or wired 360 controller, I should say, the adapter will do absolutely nothing. Can I use both a PS2 controller and a PS3 controller or Xbox 360 controller at the same time? No. My steering wheel isn't working, and it's not working with my PC. Why? It has to do with the dip switches. You need to change them on the back, which is located on the back of the controller adapter, and you can find a list on Mayflash's site. So yeah, that will basically be it for now. So thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below.